the Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Information, the Chief Executives from various hospitals under the Federal Ministry of Information, Directors and staff from the Federal Ministry of Information and our agencies, fellow Nigerians, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen of the press, good morning and compliments of the season. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to this end of year press conference at which we shall take stock of our national life in the year 2014, which ends only in a matter of hours to usher in 2015. There is no doubt that the outgoing year has been a momentous one for our dear country. We celebrated our centenary as a united, indivisible nation, and the real size of our economy and its potential was acknowledged globally. We also faced an unprecedented public health emergency following the importation of the Ebola virus disease into Nigeria by the late Liberian American Mr. Patrick Soy. But Nigeria and Nigerians triumphed over Ebola. Regrettably, terrorism and insurgency have remained a challenge, but by and large, an evaluation of the significant milestones which will reveal that there were many more bright spots in 2014 that we can all look forward to an even brighter future. I will now take time to focus on some of the milestones that should leave no one in doubt about our collective march towards progress as a united country. As I indicated at the beginning of this address, terrorism perpetrated by Boko Haram was a source of negative attention to the country in 2014. The painful kidnapping of Chibok schoolgirls readily comes to mind. However, the federal government has taken a number of measures to contain and defeat terror in this respect. We must salute the gallantry of members of the Nigerian Armed Forces and personnel of the security and intelligence agencies who were making huge sacrifices so the rest of us may be safe. Government is all relating in ensuring that the kidnapped Chibok schoolgirls are released and reunited with their families. As part of the measures to defeat terror, President Goodluck Jonathan has initiated actions across bilateral and multilateral levels within the South region and beyond to ensure concerted focus to bring the spread of violence to an end. For instance, the war on terror is now firmly on the regional and continental agenda. The United Nations has also declared Boko Haram a foreign terrorist organization. Furthermore, the multinational joint task force, which became operational this year as an outcome of the late Chad Basin Commission partnership, is actively involved in the fight against insurgents. The government wishes to assure Nigerians that every effort towards ending the insurgency is being undertaken. There is renewed training and retraining of our forces towards enhancing the capacity of the services to combat the insurgents. And in 2014, President Goodluck Jonathan had introduced a number of specific measures to address the fallout of the insurgency in the three northeastern states of Adamawa, Borno, and Yobe specifically. These measures include the Safe School Initiative, the Presidential Committee on Victims Support, and the Presidential Initiative for the Northeast, whose responsibility is to plan, coordinate, and raise funds for the reconstruction and rehabilitation of places ravaged by the insurgents. At this point, I would like to urge all Nigerians to continue to pray for the success of our armed forces and other security agencies in this war against terrorism, had peace back to our country. In the area of the economy, I would like to begin to review the outgoing year by first acknowledging the relevant issues of the moment. In the last quarter of 2014, oil prices have fallen drastically, well below the budget benchmark of $77.5 per barrel of crude. The uncertainty in the international oil market has necessitated a range of monetary policies by the Central Bank of Nigeria and fiscal policies by the Federal Ministry of Finance. While there is concern, the country is not in panic. The managers of the economy are constantly monitoring developments that impact the economy and kicking in contemplated measures under the various scenarios that have been plotted. However, there was a lot more positive about the Nigerian economy in 2014. The government's target was microeconomic stability, inclusive growth, job creation, and an attraction for both foreign and domestic investors. And here are some of the milestones. Revising of Nigeria's gross domestic product for the first time in 24 years. In 2014, Nigeria became the largest economy in Africa and the 26th in the world. The revision showed that the economy is now more diversified, with the service sector gaining dominance. Besides guiding policy making, better tax administration, revision helps the identification of and investment in sectors that drive growth and wealth creation. Revision has made Nigeria a more attractive destination for both foreign and domestic direct investment, as seen, for instance, in Dangote's investment of $9 billion in petrochemical industries. The Sovereign Wealth Fund, which focuses on life after oil, is currently valued at $1.55 billion United States dollars. Inflation rate 7.9% as of November this year, according to the National Bureau of Statistics, compared with 12.4% in May 2011. Special intervention programs are still running and creating job opportunities for young Nigerians. The WIN program has supported young entrepreneurs and created nearly 27,000 jobs within the year, while the graduate internship scheme has engaged and employed 9,621 interns. In general, in 2013, about 1.2 million jobs were created by the end of the second quarter. Over 500,000 jobs have been created. As part of the special attention being paid to jobs, in September 2014, President Goodluck Jonathan inaugurated the 31-member Presidential Jobs Board of Nigeria, headed by Vice President Architect Muhammad Sambo. The board has officials from both government and private sector, and its charge is facilitating employment generation. Boost for micro, small, and medium-scale enterprises. In August this year, the Central Bank of Nigeria announced the takeoff of its 220 billion naira micro, small, and medium-scale enterprises development funds. The 220 billion development fund is designed to enhance access to finance by medium-scale enterprises, which will have a knock-on effect on entrepreneurship and job creation. The fund will provide wholesale financing windows for participating financial institutions and improve the capacity to meet credit needs of MSMEs at customer-friendly interest rates. Significantly, 60% of the medium scale and small enterprises fund is to be allocated to women entrepreneurs. In addition to the foregoing, the clean-up of the banking sector has been well handled. All banks are now fully capitalized, whereas non-performing bank loans stood at 36.5% in July 2010. By July 2014, they were 3.69%, well within the 5% prudential limit. Successfully hosting of the World Economic Forum for Africa in Abuja, in spite of terrorist acts that were deliberately aimed at discouraging attendance at the forum, was a huge success. They were continued in 2014 to vigorously pursue the pension reform 10 years after it was passed in 2011, that has been enacted into law, signed by Mr. President. In the area of trade and investment, we kicked off the National Industrial Revolution Plan to position Nigeria's industries at the bedrock of sustainable economic development. This is based on areas where Nigeria has comparative and competitive advantage. The plan links industries to innovation and skills development. In December this year, the Federal Executive Council approved a landmark policy to position the cotton, textile, and garment subsector of the economy. The policy covers the entire value chain from cotton to design. The country now has a Nigerian Sugar Master Plan, which provides the roadmap for 100% local production of sugar. Consequently, Nigeria's raw sugar imports dropped to 800,000 tons from 1.4 million metric tons recorded in the first quarter of 2013. Refined sugar imports dipped from 1.88% in 2012 to 0.67% in 2013. This resulted in a drop in price of sugar from 9,000 naira for 50 kg in 2012 to 6,950 naira in 2013, representing a decrease of 23%. A new automobile policy was introduced, which helped create jobs and boost our economy. Sterling Group investment in Volkswagen of Nigeria plant has led to a successful resuscitation of Volkswagen of Nigeria vehicles. Innocent Group manufacturing of made in Nigeria cars was facilitated through the Bank of Industry loan. Made in Nigeria armored vehicles by Proforce Nigeria Limited, Ijebu-Ode, Ogun State, also benefited from the Bank of Industry loan for expansion and inauguration of Wemco Steel Mill, state-of-the-art 5-stand tandem called World Steel Plant in Ibapo, Ogun State. We repositioned the Ways and Measures departments to entrench fair trading and give consumers value for their spending. It is no surprise, therefore, Nigeria remained the most favored destination for investors for foreign direct investment in Africa for the year 2014. In agriculture, achievement in the subsector are facts that are in the public domain. I'll be brief in recapitulating them on this occasion. It suffices to state that agricultural transformation agenda has revolutionized agriculture in the country. From farming for subsistence, agriculture under President Goodluck Jonathan administration has been elevated to full commercial enterprise. Through the exploration of the value chain, different enterprises have sprung up in the processing, storage, packaging, and marketing subsection. The fall in the rate of inflation from double digit to single digit has been partly due to higher domestic production of food. The nation's food import bill has also reduced, placing Nigeria firmly on the path to food self-sufficiency. The government is still pursuing its target for self-sufficiency in rice production by 2015. In the outgoing year, one of the largest integrated rice mills, owned and operated by Holland, was commissioned at Doma in Nassau State. Investments are ongoing in priority value chains, including agriculture, cassava, dairy, livestock, maize, mango, orange, palm oil, pineapple, rice, rubber, sesame seed, tomato, and wheat. More funds are now going to farmers in Nigeria, both from local and international investors, as well as financial institutions. The Nigerian incentive-based risk-sharing system for agricultural lending, the NASOL scheme, which was introduced by the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, has guaranteed 25 billion naira of agricultural loans to farmers. This has facilitated increased lending to the agricultural sector at 4% of banks' total loans from the average of 1.5% in 2009. In 2012, the banks lent 3.5 billion naira to agro dealers, first time ever. In 2013, the banks lent 20 billion naira to agro dealers. The major plans of the agricultural transformation agenda, including strengthening 10 priority value chains across the country, improve quality seedlings, support crop processing zones, among others, and crops. The e-wallet system continues to deliver fertilizers to farmers effectively and efficiently with minimal corruption. In health, perhaps the most obvious story about achievements in the health sector is how Nigeria and Nigerians responded in unison to defeat Ebola virus disease and limit its impact on the population. The World Health Organization certified Nigeria Ebola-free on 20th of October this year, but there were other significant milestones in the health sector as well. In January 2014, the World Health Organization also had issued Nigeria with a certificate declaring the country free of guinea worm. That certification was a salute to the joint efforts of the Federal Ministry of Health, the Carter Center, the World Health Organization, the UNICEF, and the Yakubu Gowon Center, which battled successfully to rid the country of guinea worm, which used to record one of its highest prevalence rates in Nigeria. Nigeria also recorded new gains in the eradication of polio, such that in the first 5 months, no new cases have been reported. We can therefore comfortably say Nigeria is firmly on its way to eradicating polio out of the country as a follow-up to the success recorded in 2014. The National Health Bill has been enacted into law. After nearly 10 years in making, the National Health Bill was signed into law this year by President Goodluck Jonathan. It is a revolutionary piece of legislation that has been held by stakeholders as a game changer in healthcare delivery service in the country. Also, in the outgoing year, launch of pneumonia vaccine took place. In the area of maternal and child health, Nigeria, through the Ministry of Health, have continued actively to further reduce the rate of child and maternal mortality to the Save 1 Million Lives initiative. And also in the outgoing year, the National Trauma Center of the National Hospital here in Abuja has been launched, with state-of-the-art facilities which will deliver world-class services to Nigerian citizens and beyond. On the 25th of November 2014, President Goodluck Jonathan launched the implementation of the Nigerian component of the Great Green Wall Initiative at Bachaka village of Arewa local government area of Kebbi Great Green Wall project aims to avoid the vicious cycle of environmental degradation, impoverishment, migration, and conflict. A brainchild of the African Union, the Great Green Wall is a regional afforestation program designed to create a green belt of trees across the southern edge of the Sahara Desert in order to address land degradation and desertification. The Nigerian component comprises a green belt that is 15 kilometers wide and 1,500 kilometers long across 11 states of Kebbi, Sokoto, Zamfara, Katsina, Kano, Jigawa, Bauchi, Gombe, Yobe, Borno, and Adamawa states. When completed, the Great Green Wall will protect water resources and restore the habitat for biodiversity, energy resources, and agricultural production. As should be expected, the implementation of the Great Green Wall will generate employment for the planters, which will also provide arable land for cultivation going forward, which itself guarantees sustainable income for millions of Nigerians. Another landmark development in the course of the outgoing year was the adoption of a policy on the development of grazing reserves, which in the long run will help to minimize conflict between herdsmen and farmers. In the area of housing, the federal government has in 2014 pressed on with measures that will help reduce the housing deficit in the country. The measures include launch of the Nigerian Mortgage Refinancing Company. Its purpose is to facilitate and guarantee mortgage liquidity access to qualified institutions, which will in turn own lend to persons desirous of owning their own houses. Launch of the first phase of 10,000 affordable houses, which will be delivered in due course. Owing to the large numbers of applications, the initial phase has been extended to 60,000 houses. In addition to rehabilitating and maintaining the 23 existing federal secretariats across the country, the federal government, through the Federal Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, is currently undertaking the construction of 6 new secretariats across the country. The new secretariats are located in each geographical zone, namely Awka in Anambra State, Southeast, Yenagoa in Bayelsa State, South, Oshobo in Osun State, Southwest, Gombe in Gombe State, Northeast, Nasarawa in Nasarawa State, North Central, and Gusau in Zamfara State, Northwest. Work is progressing satisfactorily in each of these project sites. While on the subject matter of housing, let me quickly add that the Federal Ministry of Culture, Tourism and National Orientation also completed the construction and equipping of 3 brand new cultural industry centers in Taraba, Ogun, and the Federal Capital Territory. Water resources have continued to receive due attention from the government in the outgoing year. Before the inception of President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan's administration, access to potable water was 58%. Access is now about 70%, while sanitation moved from 30% to 50% under the recent national assessment. This has been made possible through the efforts of the 3 tiers of government, together with development partners in the provision of water supply for the urban, small towns, and rural settlements. Within the last 4 years, the Federal Ministry of Water Resources completed 37 dams of various sizes, rehabilitated 10 more dams, while the construction works on 149 dams of various capacities are ongoing across the country. The dams are useful for hydropower, irrigation, fishery development, flood control, tourism, and recreation. Out of the 37 completed dams, 16 are with hydro power potentials capable of generating 135.15 megawatts of electricity. Some existing dams, including the Oranga Dam, emergency spillway in Sokoto, Tiga and Chalawa Gorge dams in Kano, as well as other dams in many states, have been rehabilitated for a more optimal operation. Construction works on some strategic dams, such as Otupo Multipurpose Dam, Kwantagora Dam, Galma Elisha Dam, Adada Dam, Ivo Dam, Kashimbila Dam, are progressing well and are in various stages of completion. The government's intention to complete such projects and put them into use to enhance food security, power generation, and job creation. The Kashimbila Dam on the Kasanala River in Tarawa State, a major tributary of the river Benue, besides other economic benefits, will help to checkmate the threat of flood from the structurally weak volcanic Lake Inyos upstream in the Cameroons. In the area of power generation, under the roadmap for power sector reform launched by President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, the federal government has fully privatized Power Holding Company of Nigeria, PHC, and successor companies in generation and distribution. It has also contracted out the Management of Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN. TCN has completed several substation projects, with many more ongoing, all with a view to increasing the wheeling capacity of the transmission network nationwide. We have restarted the multi-billion dollars National Integrated Power Projects, which have been stalled for years. Have expanded close to 500 billion naira to settle debts and payoffs to allow progress in the power sector. We have created an enabling environment for the injection of private sector capital in all areas of the power sector. The energy mix is now more diversified to exploit the abundance of natural resources in the country. And exploited established other energy sources like solar, wind, biomass, waste power to complement and supplement the limited power generation and supply available in Nigeria. Operation Light Up Rural Nigeria was initiated to provide access to electricity to road dwellers far removed from the national grid. In 2014, the Operation Light Up Rural Nigeria pilot schemes were launched in 3 rural communities of Durumi, Shape, and Maru, all in the Federal Capital Territory, FCT. Plans have been concluded to commission the 10 megawatts Kasana Wind Farm power plant in Kasana State. And feasibility studies have been conducted to tap wind energy for electricity generation in the offshore locations of the country. 53 applications were received through the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission (NERC) for licensing of independent power producers (IPPs) in the last few months, most of which are for new energy power plants. A synergy has been developed between the Ministry of Power and Ministry of Petroleum Resources to bridge the gaps and volatility in gas supply to ensure gas and energy security. The federal government, through the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has provided 213 billion naira power sector intervention facility to establish, to be disbursed to generation and distribution companies, as well as gas suppliers. The funds are intended to take care of legacy debts that had hampered the operations of the new players in the power industry. The CBN, the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission (NERC), and the deposit money banks in the country have since signed a disbursement agreement in respect of the intervention fund. In addition, action plan for the actualization of coal-fired power plants has been developed by the Coal Power Committee. The committee facilitated investment in coal-fired power plants by Zuma Energy Limited and Pacific HTG Limited. The Federal Ministry of Power, in partnership with the Federal Ministry of Mines and Steel Development, is currently developing bankable project documents for the purpose of facilitating investment in coal power initiative. In order to get stranded power onto the grid, the Federal Ministry of Power is coordinating negotiations with companies willing to generate power and export to the grid. These companies include Ajakuta Steel Company, which will contribute 85 megawatts, Alstom, which will contribute 100 megawatts, Lafarge Cement, which will contribute 40 megawatts, and Kaduna Refinery, which will contribute 33.5 megawatts. On the 10th of October 2014, Mr. President performed the groundbreaking ceremony of the Azura Thermal Power Plant in Edo State. The Azura Edo IPP is a 450 megawatt open cycle gas turbine power station. It is the first phase of a 1,500 megawatts power plant facility. The high-profile investors in the project reflect the confidence in the Nigerian economy in general and an endorsement of ongoing reforms in the power sector in particular. For a period of almost 16 years before the new power sector reform got underway, in earnest, the old NEPA or PHCN did not recruit fresh engineers. To be successful, the new players in the power industry must have access to qualified and competent local staff. This is the philosophy behind the National Power Training Institute of Nigeria, NAPTIN, which has now been restructured into a world-class training institute. NAPTIN graduated 243 engineers in November 2013 and admitted 330 for the 2013-2014 academic year through its National Graduate Skills Development Program. NAPTIN trained 70 engineers in solar, wind, hybrid renewable energy options at the Regional Training Center in Kanji. On 6th of November this year, President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan launched the National Power Sector Apprenticeship Scheme, which is aimed at training industry-ready hands at a level lower than NAPTIN. There are 7,400 persons currently on the stream. Infrastructure, which includes roads, bridges, and railways. The savings made from the partial subsidy removal 3 years ago have been successfully invested into the economy through the various sectors of the economy, through the SURE-P programs, notably roads, bridges, railways, education, child and maternal health, youth empowerment, housing, culture and tourism, etc. This is a novel and unique in success. Before I itemize some of the more obvious accomplishments of the Jonathan administration with regard to the infrastructural sector, subsector in the outgoing year, let me draw your attention to one major milestone, that is the ratification of the Federal Executive Council of the 30-year National Integrated Air Infrastructure Master Plan, which had been in the works for a couple of years. The Federal Executive Council approved the master plan in September this year, and to give it legal backing, the process leading to legislation are being undertaken. The integrated infrastructure master plan, which is projected to cost about $3.05 trillion, the first such blueprint for the accelerated integrated infrastructure development in the country. It is difficult, therefore, to deny these days that our national highways are getting better. This is because the Federal Ministry of Works, under the present administration, has made significant progress in the construction, rehabilitation, reconstruction, expansion, and maintenance of thousands of kilometers of key arterial roads across the 6 geopolitical zones of the country. This has resulted in tremendous reduction of travel times, cost of maintenance of vehicles, and rate of accidents by transporters, among other gains. We're in the holiday season, and those who travel by road can testify to the vast improvement in the state of our highways. However, it is noteworthy that in 2014, President Goodluck Jonathan performed the groundbreaking ceremony for the long-delayed second major bridge. And also, within the same year, the Benin-Ore Road has been completed. Major construction works on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway are ongoing. The Kano-Maiduguri Expressway is almost 70% completed. So is Kano-Katsina, Enugu, Port Harcourt, among others. With a basket of funding in place, the delivery of the project, which is scheduled, it is noteworthy that in 2014, President Jonathan performed the groundbreaking ceremony for the long-delayed second major bridge. With the basket of funding in place, the delivery of the project, which is scheduled for 48 months, is assured. The federal government is also constructing the 2.1 kilometer local Eweto Bridge, which will link Nasarawa and Benue states, and is over 70% completed. In the area of railway, the rehabilitation of over 90% of the entire existing narrow gauge lines throughout the country is at various stages of completion. The rehabilitation is the first segment of the 25-year railway strategic vision. The main western line, Lagos-Kano, which is 1,124 kilometers, is completed, and passenger services and haulage of goods along all lines were flagged off in December 2012. The rehabilitation work in the eastern line from Port Harcourt to Maiduguri, the total distance of 1,657 kilometers, is progressing steadily. In fact, just before Christmas, Vice President Namadi Sambo took the first train ride from Port Harcourt to Imo River Station in Adi State to mark the commissioning of the Port Harcourt-Enugu rail line. In the standard gauge category, the second segment of the 25-year railway strategic plan is a modernization program through the introduction of the standard gauge. Lagos-Kano line is being executed in 6 segments on standalone basis in order to effectively fund the projects as follows. Abuja from Edu to Kaduna, 187 kilometers. Lagos to Ibadan, 181 kilometers. Ibadan to Ilorin, 200 kilometers. Ilorin to Mina, 270 kilometers. Mina to Abuja, 145 kilometers. And Mina to Kano, 360 kilometers. The standard gauge line from Itape to Ajakuta Tuori, covering a total distance of 274 kilometers, will be completed in the second quarter of 2015. The Abuja-Kaduna standard gauge line will begin to function in a few months' time. The contract for the construction of Lagos-Ibadan standard gauge line, double track, 180 kilometers times 2, has been awarded and work has commenced. A framework agreement was signed on 5th of May this year between the Federal Ministry of Transport and Mrs. CCECC for the construction of coastal railway line connecting 10 states with the following alignments: Lagos to Shagamu, Ijebu-Ode, Ore to Benin City, to Sapele, then Warri, to Yanaba, to Port Harcourt, then Aba, to Uyo and Calabar. With another section taken off from Benin City to Abudu, to Abo, to Ogashoku, to Asaba, to Onisha, including Onisha Railway Bridge. In the outgoing year, we have continued to consolidate, deepen, and broaden our relationship with both our bilateral and multilateral partners. In West Africa, our commitment to peace, to regional peace and security, democracy, human rights, and good governance have remained unshaken. We have worked very closely with other regional member states to stabilize Guinea-Bissau and conducted a successful general election in that country this year. Our efforts, alongside others, had restored democracy in Burkina Faso. We have generously assisted our fellow West African states affected by the Ebola virus disease, and today hundreds of young Nigerian volunteers are actively engaged in the fight against the scourge in Liberia, Guinea, and Sierra Leone. Nigeria chaired the United Nations Security Council as its president for the month of September this year. In that capacity, we continue to pursue our foreign policy objectives of non-aggression, peace, security, and democracy, global cooperation, and self-determination for oppressed groups around the globe. We shall continue to push these noble attributes on the global agenda in the next coming year. Also in the outgoing year, the year-long program marking Nigeria's centenary was rounded off in the outgoing year with a series of high-profile events and activities that attracted dignitaries from within and outside the country. Coincidental with the centenary celebrations, President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan convened a national conference to chart a path for the future of the country. The 492-member national conference sat from March to August in 2014, when it submitted its final report with more than 600 recommendations, with implications for policy formulation, lawmaking, and conditional constitutional amendments. Contrary to fears in some quarters, the conference submitted a unanimous report and voted for continued oneness, unity, and progress of the country. This is a no mean achievement. I should add that an interministerial committee has been set up by the President is already synthesizing the recommendations of the National Conference with a view to their implementation. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, invited guests, from what I've highlighted so far, it is clear that despite the obvious challenges we faced, Nigeria today is not where it was in 2013 or in 2011 for that matter. The transformation agenda is a roadmap for President Goodluck Jonathan's administration. The agenda is designed to speed up the realization of Nigeria's Vision 2020, which envisions Nigeria as one of the world's top 20 economies by gross domestic product size by the year 2020. The agenda aims to tackle unemployment, infrastructural deficits, and inconsistency in policies and programs. The key goals of the transformation agenda include strong, inclusive, non-inflationary economic growth, employment generation, poverty alleviation, and sustained improvement in the well-being of all classes of Nigerians. From my presentation, there is no question that we have made progress, and the key indicators show without doubt that the progress we are making will be consolidated. But for the insurgency, the rate and quantum of growth and development will have been far more worse. This is why all hands must be on deck for us to collectively defeat terror and for us to claim and live our normal lives. In about 6 weeks from now, voting will begin in our country's general elections. There are great expectations about the elections, but while politicians and their supporters are crisscrossing their constituencies asking for votes, and this is usually accompanied with excitement and sometimes tension, I should stress that Nigerians know that the country is not going to war over the elections. The 2015 elections will be the first set of general elections to be conducted in the country since the return of democracy in 1999. President Goodluck Jonathan has affirmed his commitment to the conduct of free, fair, and credible elections, just as he did in 2011. He has not, and will not interfere with the operations and activities of the Independent National Electoral Commission. Rather, the President is determined to clear all obstacles that might hinder the smooth operations of INEC. President Jonathan expects all political actors to play by the rules, in particular by abhorring violence and manipulation of the electoral process. In this regard, I'm sure we're all aware of Mr. President's paid threats that his ambition to be elected to govern this country is no worth the blood of any Nigerian. Let me end this address by calling on the media to demand the highest standards of candidates during and after the period of electoral era. The media should also refrain from giving vent to misguided elements whose attitude is win or destroy. Nigeria is bigger than any one of us. And the people, on behalf of candidates whom they seek to govern, want peace and progress, not anarchy and destruction. I thank you very much for your kind attention.